Marianne Halford is going to be the chair, so please welcome them to the stage.
Yeah, apparently there.
So everybody had a good lunch, I hope. Okay. We have a great action-packed panel here today. We are going to be talking about various aspects of the audio advertising ecosystem, everything from AI to programmatic and to tech innovation and where the future may take us. So, and we have a dog as well, yes. Okay. Emma, has he ever done any audio advertising?
I mean, Aurora is the most famous dog in advertising. So
Okay, good. That's great. So, Ollie.
Yes.
Tell us just briefly what AdsWizz does and how you are putting AI, AI is the big buzzword, so we're going to start with AI. How are you putting AI to work at AdsWizz?
Yeah, so AdsWizz, for people who don't know, is a suite of advertising solutions for the digital audio industry. We initially started out
digital audio can be streaming radio.
Web radio, music streaming, podcasts, more recently actually in-game audio as well. And we started out around 14 odd years ago, just working directly with publishers for direct advertising, then moved into the world of programmatic or automation. And we were acquired in sort of 2018 by Pandora and then 2019 by SiriusXM. So it's a really, really
Do people here know what SiriusXM is?
Sorry, US.
Yeah, it's a US satellite
music
radio.
streaming, satellite radio, yeah. And so since that acquisition, that's a really, really acquisitive business and also a business which is really investing in advertising technology development. Obviously, with the advent of AI, that represents an enormous opportunity. So on the demand side of our business, we have a DSP, and we also have a self-serve tool for SMBs in the US. And in both of those solutions, we provide AI in order to enable brands to create digital audio creative.
Wow.
So if you imagine there's a UI on if it's Audio Go, it's actually a sort of a standalone site, or if it's on the DSP, there's a drop-down tab. You can just basically say, okay, I'm a 55-year-old New Yorker.
Who walks dogs?
Who walks dogs? Yes, let's say I'm a 55-year-old New Yorker who walks dogs. I want to develop a creative here. I'm a woman. I don't know, Latin American. Mm-hmm. I want to do it in a really upbeat kind of tone. You put all of these kind of parameters within. You enter your text, and you generate the creative. And when I think about AI, I think about AI as being really, it's the machines doing what humans do. So it's not kind of like iterative machine learning or just plain simple technology. It's something which the machines are doing in order to replicate what humans do. So
can I ask a question there? Because you mentioned a Latin American 55-year-old, would you also be able to generate it in both English and Spanish?
Yes, we would.
Okay, that's good.
We would, yeah. And look, we do this because we think of AI as being something which lowers the barriers to entry, lowers the cost to entry. I think it's in everybody's interests to bring more brands into digital audio, and sometimes if the costs are kind of too high, or actually there's a far sexier medium like CTV, apparently television is quite important. But if we can lower the barrier of cost to entry, that's great. But also, I was with a colleague of mine yesterday in a big agency with a global client, and they were like, we can't run any audio because we don't have the creative. And I was like, we probably help because you use our DSP. And they were like, that's brilliant, because actually we've got a load of video content which has no audio over it. So actually we could record this ad for the audio campaign, and then we can overlay that on the video. I was like, now you're talking. So they were like, they use the phrase game changing, and I think that's what AI can do. I think there are integrity issues around using it for creating content and then passing that off as human created, especially if you're going to then monetize it. But actually, as an enhancement and increasing efficiency, I think it's a wonderful thing.
Wonderful. Tom, when we talk, well, first of all, I think everybody here, has everybody here heard of YouTube? So, when we talked, you talked about how AI has been really part and parcel of everything YouTube has been doing for now 8 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you just talk a little bit about how important AI is currently, where you are in the...
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
So Tom Sherwood, product lead at YouTube UK. Marianne actually asked me a brilliant question in our pre-pep call, which was, why are YouTube on a panel about AI, programmatic and audio? And I think it's really because we see these worlds colliding, and AI plays a very important role in enabling the successful collision of video and audio coming more closely together. I think one of the things we talked about on that call was we increasingly see folk watching a podcast on their TV using YouTube, which is kind of almost 4 different platforms coming together at once. And that's really because of a change in consumer behavior that has been enabled by technology such as AI. We talked as well about Ben Foster, who's, for anybody who doesn't know, Ben is the ex-England goalkeeper who, towards the end of his career, started uploading videos on YouTube and enjoyed it and has become now a creative and content juggernaut and spans, Spotify, podcast, a huge YouTube channel. He was on Ant and Dec, I think, on Saturday night on ITV. Was on Disney Plus's Welcome to Wrexham. He's just become huge. Creators like Ben are getting closer to their audience, using and leveraging AI technology within the YouTube suite of products, which allows them to better understand their audience. That's bringing together huge data sets.
The AI is actually helping them better understand what resonates.
Exactly, 100%. It helps them understand all of the data points that come together and understand a little bit more about the profile of their audience. It's that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's incredibly exciting.
Well, I know a lot about young people watching podcasts on YouTube.
Yeah.
My 24-year-old daughter, literally, that's all she does is watch podcasts on YouTube. So, Matt, you're a very prolific person in this industry. I mean, I think you have 3 different jobs or 3 different companies. A lot of it is on the content side. How is AI becoming important to what you do with the many hats you wear?
Sure. So Folder Media provides advice consultancy to radio stations and media companies around Europe. And on the side, we have a children's radio network and audio network called Fun Kids. And what we're seeing in the market is radio groups experimenting with AI in different territories. So in America particularly, there's a product that will create AI links between records. So if you had a DJ that's basically doing kind of that was this is links or promoting ahead, then you might use software which can do that, whether it's cloning existing voices or new voices. And you look at that and you go, oh, is that quite a negative thing? Is that sort of quite boring? Is that something which exists? Why not use human to do that? And I was sort of thinking for Fun Kids, well, actually, for a channel for younger audiences, we might that simulated voice might be a giraffe's voice or an elephant's voice. It doesn't need to be a human voice. And so, actually, if you're using the technology to do more interesting things, I think that's good to play with. We've seen some community radio in the UK use some news AI services to create news AI bulletins using their own written content, using the voices of their newsreaders, and checked before it gets broadcast to do something which they have a lot of trouble with. Community radio, not a lot of funding. They have bits of resource, but in slightly different places. So does it enhance their programming? Is it well regulated and well checked for them to do more? Otherwise, that would just be back-to-back music. So I think there's using some of the technology to enhance what humans would do rather than replace them, or to broaden out what a business can do.
Do you ever get afraid of what AI could mean from an integrity point of view? Or
well, obviously you worry about your own job and replacing that. I mean, I think it's a tool. Unlike anything, you can use tools to do good things and bad things. I think a lot of it's about understanding how it fits into your content flow, what job it does for your listeners or viewers or readers. Is that well telegraphed? Do people understand what you're doing around it? And can it allow you to do more? I think that's the benefit. It's multiplying things up. It's multiple language. It's adding things to stations which wouldn't normally have presenters on. Can you improve the experience for a listener?
Okay. Now, Emma,
Yes.
As I understand, AI is at the core of the various solutions that your company provides. Can you help explain what the power of what you're doing to the audience right now?
I will do my best, and Aurora is going to help me. Great job. So I'm Aurora. I run a commercial operation at NumberEight, and NumberEight, basically an AI company. We always did AI. That's the premise of how we started, kind of AI and on-device computing. And we leverage AI in kind of similar way to one of my colleagues here said, like Tom, understanding basically the users. In our case, we take information from sensors on device, which can be magnetometer, gyroscope, accelerometer, and so on, to really understand.
How do you get those sensors? Are they a part of a panel that you have, or?
Less of a panel and more actually at scale. So think of it as software that is part of other apps. Whether working with audio apps, and that's actually a big part of our publisher group, where they
So you have agreements with a bunch of publishers that help you in doing this?
Basically, we enable them to access their first-party data.
Okay.
So what we do is our software will sit within their apps. We will get access to the sensory data that is part of the device. Everyone can access them. They're not special. The only thing is we translate those sensors into using AI to understand what the user is actually doing in real time. So understanding that you're currently commuting, or that you're walking, or that you're currently working or relaxing, and so on. And that information is also creating the foundation to understand user profiles. All of that is, one, deterministic data because it's observed data, and second, it's behavioral data. So you're a jogger not because you say that you're a jogger, but because we actually observed you running X amount of time per week. Also, that allows us to do everything on the edge user device, so we don't need ADs in the first place, and kind of preventing and anonymize the end user. So the only thing you can really know about them is that they're a jogger, but not everything else stays hidden and protected. So kind of solving for one, scale, and second, the privacy. So rather than doing a panel, which is kind of a survey, but rather observing all of the users and really knowing who this person is, of course, by protecting also their privacy. And that's also powered our additional product that also looks at how to leverage contextual information to understand multiple information about the user, such as their gender and age, all through, again, preventing any data leaving, keeping everything ID-less, but rather using untapped, otherwise senseless pieces of information to really to understand people. And
So
really
how do the publishers then use that data to better figure out how to program what they're doing with their apps, or is it for monetization or advertising perspectives?
A big use case is for monetization, and in fact, what we made sure is that everything that we do is easily activated and sellable for the demand side, but we have partners also using it for research, and we have partners also using it for things like optimizing what product to sell, or how to convert people into subscription, or what content to show. If someone is currently working out, you might want to give them a different playlist, for example, versus if they're currently relaxing at home, or they're currently commuting. So all of that, that's actually how this product was originally created. Our founder was in the gym and wanted his phone to figure out that he's at the gym and wants to work out and play the right music.
Okay, interesting. I'm going to now switch to programmatic, and AI may come back up in the conversation. So, Matt, you work with a number of publishers. To what extent is programmatic key to the monetization?
Well, obviously, it's hugely important, and particularly in the audio sector you've got in the UK. On the radio side, both global with DAX, Barrow Wireless with Octave, are obviously pushing forward into making programmatic audio a kind of key part of their offer. You see it with other people in the sector too. I think one of the challenges is where it sits kind of in the waterfall. Mm-hmm. You know, is it remnant? Does it push up to being kind of high quality opportunities for brands, for publishers as well? I think also it's interesting for different verticals. So for Fun Kids, for our product, we use DAX to integrate that into our radio product. We have a good relationship with them, but have a lot of discussions about trust and safety got an audience that's
Yeah.
very important to look after. And as a broadcaster, they understand that. We don't do it on the podcast side because we haven't found that right opportunity that we think would protect our audience from that inventory. And the same with advertisers as well. Like they don't want to put their material inadvertently in places that it shouldn't go. So I think as it becomes obviously a much bigger part of a lot of broadcasters' output, is it delivering obviously the right rate, the monetary rate, the right fill rate, and the right content that can best perform for those audiences.
Now, Ollie, we've seen a lot of growth in programmatic audio, and AdsWizz, I guess, has been a real force multiplier in helping develop that. Can you talk about how you help enhance?
Yeah, I mean, Matt raised a really interesting point there. When we talk about programmatic, we talk more about automation, because as you kind of alluded to there, and somebody mentioned it earlier on, so there's two things here. You were sort of talking about what the fears that people have are around programmatic, that it's a race to the bottom and it's remnant inventory and it's low CPMs. And that's just not the case in digital audio, because if you think about the displays, and I won't name the site, but anyone who's spoken to me, it's a bugbear of mine, but these sites can light up like a Christmas tree, because you've got native ads, you've got MPUs, you've got skyscrapers, leaderboards, you've got repurposed MPUs for videos, and it's just a horrible experience. In digital audio, you're getting one ad at a time. There's no header bidding. It's kind of waterfall. So actually, when we talk about programmatic, we talk about automation. Then when you start talking about automation, that opens up concepts of efficiency and targeting, and why this is so much better than kind of what's gone before. And Connor Tussle on a previous panel from Essence MediaCom, again, they're quite big. So he was sort of talking about, look, if there's any advice you have, it's like get into, he used the word programmatic because he's talking about programmatic generally, but actually from an efficiency perspective, it is, I mean, it's incredibly efficient. It's efficient in terms of people's time. It enables people to go and work on kind of more important projects. It enables, the automation of campaigns, running campaigns, targeting, reporting, you name it. And it's interesting hearing him coming from an agency perspective, because, having worked at Grape Shot for 5 years, with keyword contextual targeting, and then at Talara as an SSP, which is now part of Magnite, and now AdsWizz, what you find with all this technology innovation is it's all shaped by the demand of the demand side. Problem is, once you build it, they're like, brilliant, right, I'm going to use that, and I need now that to be translated into the next channel. So it started off in display, then went to video, now it's in native, and now you're into digital audio. And people's expectations are that you'll be able to use all of these kind of targeting and technology for the next kind of big channel. I think what's happened with digital audio, certainly in the last few years, is it's really grown up. And again, Batika at the Trade Desk mentioned, it used to be seen as digital audio as an emerging channel. It's not an emerging channel anymore. It's a channel in its own right. And actually, you only need to look at the sort of the age of the population here to realise that there's a brilliant bit of Midas research which said something like 79% of 15 to 24s don't only consume audio inventory through a digital means. So actually that linear is DAB and it's AM and FM, right? So when we talk about digital in this, we exclude DAB. Now, 15 to 34s is actually something like 63%. And you fast forward 5 years, well, actually, I know it sounds awful, but a proportion of the population would have died out, and they're the people that are, consuming content on AM and FM. And until the next means of consumption of audio comes along, maybe which trumps even digital audio, the number of people consuming digital audio is only going to increase. It's just become more and more and more important.
So, Tom, I know you're involved in product development for YouTube.
Yes.
Now, when you think about your products that you're doing for YouTube, and given that you have all these podcasts moving on to the YouTube platform, do you think about tailoring products that are going to be used by programmatic audio buyers?
To a certain degree, yes, YouTube is available programmatically through DV360, and we do have audio products that are available within there which are targeted at users who are using the platform to listen to content. But I think what Ollie said makes a lot of sense to me around that drive for efficiency and developing product and building platforms that allow advertisers to increase efficiency and therefore have a profound impact on effectiveness, and I think everybody stands to benefit from that. And then also the emerging opportunity that sits with, I think YouTube is the perfect foil to audio, and we've known that video and audio work together for a long time, way back to the old radio centre research that used to get done. And I think that's an emerging technology that's really interesting. And how do we measure that more effectively and understand the impact there? I mean, we don't even really do that particularly well at a channel level now, but I think if we look forward into the future, the multiplier effects between worlds that are colliding, I think will be really, really interesting.
And Emma, how is NumberEight working with programmatic advertising at this point in time?
A big part of it is enabling. So I think Ollie mentioned a really important point. There's the expectations that targeting and the same capabilities will be available even when you introduce programmatic to a new channel. In a lot of the cases, because it's a new channel, it doesn't have those capabilities inherently in place. One of our goals is to bring those capabilities to environments that they didn't exist before. So whether it's audio, gaming, is being able to bring targeting at the highest capabilities, measurement at the highest capabilities into environments where this could be a challenge, such as, for example, podcasting is something that we're really focused on right now. And how do you bring targeting into podcasting, which is a channel that has been known to be quite difficult to target in. So that's a big part of enabling programmatic and making sure that it's supported and facilitated and have all the capabilities that you would expect.
Podcast, sorry to interrupt because I know Matt was going to speak, but podcasting is a really, really interesting one because we saw people's listening habits change so much during the pandemic, right? And we saw advertising spend go up massively. Podcasting was the single biggest growth area in digital media in between 2021 and 2023, right? And what you've seen with podcast advertising is that to Emma's point, the plethora of targeting capabilities has evolved so much in a relatively short period. Let's say it's 4 or 5 years. Since I joined AdsWizz 4 years ago, we introduced, not down to me, but contextual targeting in podcasting because it was table stakes in other media. And now it's become table stakes almost in podcast advertising because people are kind of saying, right, that's available to me in display, it's available to me in video. I want to be able to use it for podcast advertising because I realise that podcasting really is a massive growth medium. And so the technology vendors and the technology companies have created this targeting capability in response to what's going on coming from the demand side.
It's an interesting challenge with what is efficiency. So is efficiency about buying? This is very efficient now to buy. It's some taps, it gets that stuff out there. Is it about efficiency about creating creative and getting the right material? Or is it about efficiency with audiences, about making them respond to advertising in a positive way and go on to buy the product or do whatever the advertiser wants? And I think when we think of the creative side of implementing some programmatic things. So the spot ad is very understandable. In podcasting, as you referenced there, live reads have been very successful. The idea is presenter endorsement, all of those delivered programmatically, but the creative is done in a different way. It's some of the relationship, it's understanding that relationship, being able to trade on it if you're the advertiser, and how can you take those interesting creative executions, often at higher yield for a publisher. We love a good creative, good sponsorship, but some promotions that can work effectively, and balancing that scale reach versus things that really work and engage with audiences.
Like taking somebody like Ben Foster, right?
Ben Foster.
Yeah, taking a Ben Foster read and then scaling that across a number of other podcasts. Would that be the example that you're talking about?
But also understanding that requires a different set of skills than perhaps thinking about spot ads and using programmatic to distribute those. I
mean, even programmatic can be used to some degree in post-read.
Yes.
There are some tools that are somewhere and in between. So when we work with this kind of partners, a lot of the time what we provide is just the ability to even know who is the audience listening to that podcast? What is it similar to kind of understand, is this the kind of content I'm looking for in terms of audience and content? Okay, this is the right place for me. Now I'm going to invest in it, and what other podcasts can I potentially invest in that are kind of similar in terms of audience? That is a big part of enabling that and making it a bit more efficient, rather than saying it's all, there's no humans involved. I think there's a lot of humans involved in AI in general. When I teach my team, I run a team and we use a lot of AI also in our daily life and operation. And I told them, I want to make sure that will be relevant in the future. One of the ways that I make sure that you have a job 10, 20 years from now is I'm going to force you to use AI. And I'm going to show you how important are humans in using AI and how it's all about prompt. And my partner is a film director. We even use AI when we do some, like within the design and everything else. So like AI is a big part of it. It does not replace you.
And you know, just to the point was raised there, podcast hosteries, people think of them as sort of being the benchmark for advertising, and I think the future is very much, well, actually it's the present as well. In the US, we do have an automated hostery solution which is available, again, through our platform, and whilst it's not using AI and it's not auto-generating content, what it's doing is it's creating efficiencies in the creation of the host read ad. So it's automating the whole process between the buyer and seller via a technology platform.
In the future, it might use AI as well to some degree. Like if you watch Andy Warhol Diaries, they use AI to regenerate his voice. And that's a way that we can do things that we were never able to do before in a respectful manner. Like, well, he's not around to agree to it, but I mean, someone agreed. So that's a way to kind of get it over the
But this is a really interesting point and an important point, because AI can act as a kind of supercharger for creativity, right? And it's not necessarily something to be mindful of and respectful of, but it's not something necessarily to be scared of. And I think one of the things looking into the future will be, we'll build teams, we'll help our own teams go on journeys to understand and to use these tools as a kind of partner, more than something that's going to be a replacement. To your point earlier, Matt.
Yeah, I think the key thing is it's got to be additive, and increasing efficiency, and the point I made kind of earlier on, it's about bringing new opportunities, kind of in this instance in the digital audio space. It's about lowering the barriers to entry, opening up to people who couldn't necessarily do it previously.
I do want to talk about tech innovation, but we are getting rather down to the end. Are there any questions from the audience?
Stunned silence.
Okay.
Should have put it into ChatGPT.
Tech innovation. There's a lot of room for that in audio. I mean, obviously, a lot has been happening. All of you have been involved in it. What are some of the key developments that you anticipate over the next 3 to 5 years? What will we be talking about several years from now?
We're seeing, so somebody mentioned on a panel earlier on, Batika again, she was actually saying, let's get the basics right first. Before we start, let's not run before we can walk. Let's start making sure that people are using what's available most efficiently. There will be innovation, I think, in the deprecation of cookies. There are massive opportunities in targeting. We're already seeing that with contextual targeting, brand safety, mood targeting, weather, geo, you name it. But where we'll see the innovation, again, going to what I was saying about these things being led by what the demand side wants to do, we're seeing a lot of people reach out to us because things like transparency, supply path optimization, and dealing directly with publishers is a priority rather than kind of doing this through aggregation, because people are talking about disclosed versus non-disclosed models. But we'll see more and more buyers using technology in order to manage their own inventory. We're having 2 or 3 conversations already with that. Sorry, I took up most of that time there.
It's all right. We've got a little more time.
I mean, I'll add to that. I think that those drivers, privacy changes will be a big driver, whether it's IP loss and the rest of it. Like, we're seeing the preparation for that, and that's also why we came in to be as a company in the first place. I think that will be a big driving force. And then you have things like attention coming into play, and how does it play, or what can we do in audio and attention? And especially around mobile, that's something that we're looking into and we're thinking about, of how do you capture it, how do you analyze more efficiently. And of course, generative AI, I think, is here to stay and just grow and play And we use it in some of our product even for targeting, but it will just become a big force in creativity.
Well, I think we are now out of time. Our panel will be around for a few more minutes here if any of you do have questions. But in the meantime, please give them a round of applause for